In this episode of the Atomic Zone, the year is 1943, and we see the American submarine USS Snook deep in the dark, contested waters off the Mariana Islands, where Captain Hudson commands his boat with quiet intensity as part of a coordinated attack group alongside the Pargo and the Wahoo, their mission simple and brutal: to find the enemy convoy and destroy it before it can reinforce the Japanese war machine. The three submarines strike hard and fast, torpedoes cutting through the black water with deadly precision, as a cargo ship is sent to the bottom and a destroyer escort is left crippled, but still afloat. And in that moment of calculated aggression, the pack turns its attention to a larger prize, the Yamafuku Maru, a passenger cargo vessel now doomed by the cold arithmetic of war. As the attack concludes and the Snook and her sisters return to periscope depth to assess the damage, the Wahoo finds herself drifting into a surreal and horrifying field of bodies, survivors from the shattered passenger ship clinging desperately to the steel hull, their hands grasping, their voices unheard through the metal skin of the submarine. What begins as a moment of uneasy compassion becomes something far worse as the Wahoo surfaces and is immediately overrun, not by desperate survivors, but by something unnatural, something relentless, as the clinging figures surge aboard and reveal themselves to be something no sailor has ever been trained to face. The narration explains that the control room descends into chaos, and in a fatal moment of panic, the Wahoo's executive officer throws open the hatch in a desperate attempt to escape, sealing the fate of the submarine as it floods and vanishes beneath the waves, lost to the sea and to whatever horror has taken hold of its crew. Hudson, hardened and resolute, manages to repel the attackers aboard the Snook and orders an emergency dive, the submarine slipping beneath the surface and away from the nightmare, leaving behind the unknown fate of the Pargo and the sinking wreckage of their mission. In the days that follow, the Snook drifts through an ocean that now feels hostile in an entirely new way, as strange and fragmented radio transmissions echo through the static, sounds that might be distress calls or might be something else entirely. And at one point, two torpedoes are heard being fired somewhere in the distance, but no explosions follow, only silence. The narration lingers on the unease, the sense that something is still out there, moving beneath the waves. When the Snook finally reaches Midway Island, battered but intact, she is redirected to Pearl Harbor, but as she prepares to depart, the calm of the harbor is shattered by the sudden and violent arrival of the Pargo, which crashes into a maintenance vessel in Submarine Row with shocking force, its hull scraping and grinding against the clustered ships. Sailors rush to investigate, expecting survivors, but what emerges from the Pargo is a nightmare made flesh, as the crew pours out alongside a mass of infected bodies, some human, some barely recognizable, others crawling out from gaps in the hull where they had been trapped during the voyage. The narration describes the chaos as Marines and sailors open fire, cutting down the attackers in a desperate defense of the harbor, the realization dawning too late that whatever the Snook encountered at sea has followed them home. The war is nearing its end, but for the Snook and her relentless captain, the fight continues, as they are assigned to rescue support for carrier airstrikes across the Pacific, searching for downed aviators in hostile waters. While scanning the ocean for survivors, they instead detect an enemy submarine attempting to flee the area, and Hudson, driven by a fierce and perhaps obsessive determination, abandons the rescue mission in favor of pursuit, chasing the vessel across open water until both submarines are forced to surface. What follows is a brutal surface engagement, deck guns roaring as steel and fire are exchanged at close range, until the enemy submarine is run aground, helpless and exposed. Hudson prepares to deliver the final blow, but the moment is interrupted as a white flag is raised, and a small group of officers emerges onto the deck with their hands raised in surrender. They are not Japanese, they are German. Hudson recognizes the vessel as the U-48, and its captain, Dieter Todenhagen, offers a proposal that seems desperate but reasonable, asking that his crew and wounded be taken prisoner while he and his officers remain behind with the crippled submarine. With no immediate guidance from command, Hudson agrees, bringing the prisoners aboard, unaware that the wounded men are anything but helpless. In a sudden and coordinated betrayal, the so-called wounded reveal themselves as a commando unit, overpowering the Snook's crew from within, while at the same time the officers on the U-48 retrieve hidden weapons and engage the deck gunners, sealing the fate of the American submarine. The narration makes it clear: the Snook has been taken. The German crew transfers aboard in stages, bringing with them two Japanese officers and a quiet, unassuming civilian, and as the situation stabilizes, Captain Todenhagen explains that this deception was not cruelty, but necessity, the final desperate move in a mission that could change the course of the war. The civilian, he reveals, must be delivered to Germany at all costs. The journey that follows is long, secretive, and heavy with implication, as the captured Snook travels through hidden supply points in India, South Africa, and North Africa, before finally arriving in Germany, where the American crew is imprisoned and the true nature of the mission begins to unfold. The narration explains that the Japanese civilian is not merely a passenger, but a scientist, a doctor engaged in experiments that defy both morality and reason, working on a formula capable of reanimating the dead, though in a grotesquely diminished state, driven only by hunger and violence. But that is only the beginning. He is also constructing creatures assembled from the parts of animals and humans alike, monstrous hybrids of claws and teeth and muscle, and beyond even that, he is developing a virus, a weapon designed to spread rapidly through enemy forces, incapacitating or killing with equal efficiency. Either one, as the narration coldly puts it. Hudson and his men learn these truths through repeated escape attempts, each one bringing them closer to the horrific reality of what is being created within the camp. As Germany begins to collapse, desperation takes hold among the scientists and their handlers, arguments breaking out over what must be saved and what must be destroyed until a final decision is made. The reanimation experiments are deemed expendable. The monsters are slaughtered. Some of them simply slaughter themselves and each other. The remaining test subjects are burned and buried in a mass grave. The virus, however, is preserved. Berlin falls, and word spreads that Hitler is dead, but even in this moment of supposed finality, the machinery of escape is already in motion, as German and Japanese officers seize the scientist's notes, kill him, and secure passage aboard a secret rocket, vanishing into the sky while visibly afflicted by the very disease they sought to control. Back at the camp, the virus escapes containment, spreading rapidly and killing nearly everyone within its reach, leaving only Captain Hudson and his crew alive, having managed to escape amidst the chaos. They fight their way back to the Snook, overpowering the guards, only to discover that the submarine has been prepared for a final mission, fully fueled and provisioned for a journey to Argentina. And aboard, already waiting, is Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun. The narration slows, savoring the moment, as Captain Hudson and his men bring Adolf Hitler to the deck, their intention clear: to execute him, document his death, and ensure that his body is lost forever to the sea, denied even the possibility of becoming a symbol. Captain Hudson reads aloud a list of crimes, a grim accounting of a war that has consumed the world, as Adolf Hitler is bound and prepared for execution. And then everything changes. From the surrounding waters, shapes begin to emerge, massive, grotesque, and unmistakably unnatural, creatures born from the experiments that were supposed to have been destroyed, now converging on the submarine in a violent and chaotic assault. The battle is frantic and desperate, deck guns blazing, a torpedo fired at close range into one of the advancing beasts, the sea churning with blood and debris, and in one surreal moment, the only man able to reach a gun is Hitler himself, who is ordered almost absurdly to fight for his life, alongside the very men who moments before were preparing to kill him. The narration delivers it plainly. Adolf, gun, shoot, and he does. When the battle finally subsides, the monsters defeated, the crew is left in stunned silence, confronted with an unthinkable reality. The man they came to execute has, in some impossible way, helped save them. There is hesitation, there is uncertainty, there is the quiet acknowledgement. Yeah, but he did do all of those other things. And then, from the water, comes the final reckoning. A mass of figures rises from the sea, countless, relentless, unmistakable, the reanimated victims of the camps, closing in on the submarine with a singular purpose, and before anyone can react, they seize Hitler and drag him screaming into the depths. The crew retreats into the submarine, sealing the hatch and leaving the chaos behind, setting a course for home. June 1945. The watch calls out from above. Land, skipper, as the coastline of Florida comes into view, the war effectively over, the nightmare behind them. Hudson stands on the bridge, the wind in his face, Eva Braun beside him, her hand tracing absent patterns across his chest as he looks upward toward the full moon hanging over the horizon. And then, almost as an afterthought, it delivers the final revelation. Because somewhere, deep beneath the ocean, among the wreckage of war and the remains of impossible experiments, something still stirs. Something that was never fully destroyed, something assembled from death, from madness, from the broken pieces of men and monsters alike. And in that final moment, the narration names it.
FrankenZilla!
FrankenZilla!
FrankenZilla!